Hello. So I thought I'd give you a little break from Brandon. And give Brandon a little break, of course. My name is Maria. I'm a clarinet player. I've been with the band for about a year now, and I'm very grateful for this group because music really is better with friends. So thank you so much for allowing me to join you. The friends that I've made have been life-changing, and our next piece is Lincolnshire Posey by Percy Granger. In 1905, Granger had a vision to collect and preserve folk songs from the original singers in Lincolnshire, England. I asked Brandon early on in rehearsals to read his score because I was curious what Granger wrote about the songs, but what I was surprised to read was detailed, colorful, and real portraits of the people that he worked with. This piece is such a treasure because humans leave behind physical artifacts that we can dig out of the ground, but this is a cultural artifact. These aren't just songs, these are living snapshots of a person from over a century ago. He called this suite a posy, or a bouquet of musical wildflowers. Each movement is a unique personality of the individual folk singer, illustrating how a group of individuals together can create something wonderful. Just like how this band together creates beautiful music, and you together with us tonight creates art, because art is better live. So tonight we're going to present to you our own little posy, and in the spirit of oral history, we're going to read to you the folk songs with the introductions to the movements from the individuals in the band. And I will be your first flower. The first movement in Lincolnshire Posey is titled Lisbon, from the folk tune Dublin Bay, sung by the elderly and frail Mr. Dean, who performed the song for Granger propped up in his hospital bed. The melody depicts a sailor parting from his love as he departs with the Navy for Lisbon, and here it is. 'Twas on a Monday morning, all in the month of May, our ship she weighed her anchor, for all to sail away. The wind did from the southwest blow, for Lisbon we were bound. The hills and dales were covered with pretty young girls around. I wrote a letter to Nancy for her to understand that I should have to leave her unto some foreign land. She said, my dearest William, these words will break my heart. Oh, let us be married tonight, sweet Willie, before you start. For 10 long weeks and better, I've been with a child by thee. So stay at home, dear William, be kind and marry me. Our captain has commanded us, and I shall have to go. The queen's in want of men, my love. I'll never dare answer no. I'll cut my long yellow hair off, your clothing I will put on. I will go with you, love, and be your waiting man. And when it is your watch on deck, your duty I will do. I'd face the field of battle, love, in order to be with you. Your pretty little fingers, they are both long and small. Your waist is too slender to face the cannonball. For the loud the cannons rattle, love, and blazing bullets fly, and silver trumpets sound, my love, to cover the dismal cry. Pray do not talk of danger, my love is my desire. To see you in battle, and with you to spend my time, I will go through France and Spain, all to be your bride, and I will lay me down upon the battlefield at your side. 'Twas on a Monday morning, all in the month of May, our ship she weighed her anchor, all for to sail away. The wind did from the southwest blow, for Lisbon we were bound. The hills and dales were covered with pretty young girls around. So this song you will hear start with the reedy sounds of the bassoons and the oboe to imitate the specific texture of Mr. Dean's aging voice. The woodwinds will join in, and you will hear the melody slide in and out to represent the waves on the sea and the conversation between William and Nancy. Towards the end, Granger will interject, thank you, a brass fanfare to add a layer of military heroic atmosphere as a call from the ship for William's departure.
Horkstow Grange is a real 16th century brick farmhouse in North Lincolnshire, which still stands today and is listed on the National Heritage List for England. The lyrics tell a story of a local conflict between a miserable foreman named John Bolin and a team of laborers. Bolin was known for being a harsh, oppressive taskmaster. A Wagner named Steel-Eye Span, a nickname for John Moore, finally stood up to Bolin's bullying and knocks him to the ground. After that, John Bolin does not mistreat his workers. In Horkstow Grange, there lives an old miser. You all do know him, as I've heard tell. It was him and his man that was called John Bolin. They fell out one market day. Pity them what see him suffer. Pity poor steel-eyed Span. John Bolin's deeds, they will be remembered. Bolin's deeds at Horkstow Grange. With a blackthorn stick, old Steel-Eye struck him. Oftens had threatened him before. John Bolin, he turned round all in a passion, knocked old Steel-Eye onto the floor. Steel-Eye Span, he was felled by John Bolin. It happened to be on a market day. Steel-Eye swore with all his vengeance, he would swear his life away. As the ensemble plays this movement, notice how the music never quite settles into a steady beat. You'll hear the meter shift constantly. Mr. George Goldthorpe of Barrow-on-the-Humber, North Lincolnshire, was the singer of this tune for Mr. Granger, who noted, though his face and figure were gaunt and sharp-cornered, and his singing voice somewhat grating, he yet contrived to breathe a spirit of almost caressing tenderness into all he sang, said, and did, though a hint of the tragic was ever present also. A life of drudgery, ending in old age, in want and hardship, had not shorn his manners of a degree of humble nobility and dignity. Granger purposely treated the meter of this movement to mirror Goldthorpe's actual singing style, his pauses for breath, and the way he stretched certain notes. Finally, listen for the solo trumpet in the middle of the movement. It represents the town crier sharing the news of the tragedy with the village. You will then hear the music build as word grows and gossip spreads around town.
Rufford Park Poachers, also known as the Poaching Song, is the third movement of Lincolnshire Posey. It is based on the singing of Joseph Taylor of Saxby All Saints, Lincolnshire, England. Joseph Taylor was the first English folk singer to be commercially recorded because of the composer Percy Grainger. This movement portrays a story of a confrontation between a group of poachers who are defending the rights of those in poverty and the keepers of the land they are trespassing, who are defending their master's land and livestock. A buck or a doe, believe it so, a pheasant or a hare, were sent on earth for every man quite equally to share. So poachers bold, as I unfold, keep up your gallant heart, and think about those poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. They say the 40 gallant poachers, they were in distress. They'd often been attacked when their number it was less. Among the gorse to settle scores, these 40 gathered stones to make a fight for poor men's rights and break the keepers' bones. The keepers went with flails against the poachers and their cause to see that none again would dare defy the rich man's laws. The keepers, they began their fray with stones and with their flails, but when the poachers started, oh, they quickly turned their tails. Upon the ground with mortal wound, head keeper Robert lay. He will never rise up until the final judgment day. Of all that band that made their stand to set a net or snare, the 4 men brought before the court were tried for murder there. The judge, he said, for Robert's death transported you must be to serve a term of 14 years in convict slavery. So poacher bold, my tale is told, keep up your gallant heart and think about the poachers bold that night in Rufford Park. The movement begins with the earthy, haunting sonority of the piccolo and the clarinet, then in similar voices the oboe and bassoon. They play the melody together, but slightly out of sync, to create a sense of tension and to musically paint a picture of individuals slowly and silently navigating the dark forest. As the movement unfolds, you will hear the soprano sax with a different variant on the melody. This begins the narration of the poachers. Please sit back and listen to the confrontation so many years ago in Rufford Park.
I know I said I wasn't going to talk. I'm going to interject one thing that I love about this movement that David Schmidt gave me after one of our rehearsals. When the soprano sax solo comes in, it's eerie and it's ethereal and it's floating. And he walks up to me after rehearsal and goes, "Granger was making a bagpipe." So you're going to hear a drone throughout the wind ensemble, and the bagpipe is the soprano sax, and that has stuck with me, and it's really, really just that little tidbit to listen for. So, Rufford Park.
The fourth movement of Lincolnshire Posey is titled The Brisk Young Sailor and tells a classic folk trope. A sailor returns from sea in disguise to test his sweetheart's loyalty. The band would like to think that this is William and Nancy from the first movement. In the end, she stays loyal to her love, and he reveals himself to be himself, and they marry and live happily ever after. A fair maid walking all in her garden, a brisk young sailor she chanced to spy. He stepped up to her, thinking to woo her, cried thus, "Fair maid, can you fancy I? You seem to be some man of honor you seem to be. I am a poor and lowly maiden, not fitting, sir, your servant for to be." "Not fitting for to be my servant? No, I've a greater regard for you. I'd marry you and make you a lady, and I'd have servants for to wait on you. I have a true love all of my own, sir, and 7 long years he's been gone from me. But 7 more I will wait for him. If he's alive, he'll return to me. If 7 long years thy love is gone from thee, he is surely either dead or drowned. But if 7 more you will wait for him, if he's alive, then he will be found." He put his hand all in his bosom, his fingers, they were both long and small. He showed to her then the true love token, and when she saw it, down then did she fall. He took her up all in his arms, and gave her kisses, 1, 2, and 3. Here stands thy true and faithful sailor, who has just now returned to marry thee. This movement is short and sweet. Listen for the rapid-fire woodwind flourishes that skip around the main melody like sea spray. The movement is built on a constant driving pulse that suggests the brisk gait of a sailor returning from sea. Notice how the movement fluctuates between sudden bursts of loud and quiet. This reflects the dramatic way a folk singer tells a story, leaning in for a secret or shouting for emphasis during a revelation in the lyrics.
The fifth movement of Lincolnshire Posey is a fierce war song that was originally titled Lord Marlborough. The title refers to John Churchill, who was the first Duke of Marlborough. John Churchill, an ancestor of Winston Churchill, was best known for his glorious victories against the French at Blenheim and Ramillies. Granger knew he was going to have to do something different than had ever been done. When he was leaving Lincolnshire for the last time, singers came to him to say he needed the real version of Lord Melbourne from a man that can only be found at the local pub. Granger despised such places, but relented and met Mr. George Ray, an 80-year-old military soldier with a commanding presence. He lived alone and was surrounded by evil-smelling cats. I am an Englishman to my birth. Lord Melbourne is my name. In Devonshire, I first drew breath, that place of noble fame. I was beloved by all my men, by kings and princes likewise. I never failed in anything but won great victories. Then good Queen Anne sent us on board to Flanders we did go. We left the banks of Newfoundland to face our daring foe. We climbed those lofty hills straight away with broken guns, shields likewise. And all those famous towns we took, to all the world's surprise. King Charles II we did reserve to face our foemen French, and to the battle of Ramels we boldly did advance. The sun was down, the earth did shake, and I so loud did cry, fight on, my lads, for old England's sake, we'll gain the field or die. And now this glorious victory's won, so boldly keep the field, when prisoners in great numbers took, which forced our foe to yield. That very day my horse was shot, all by a cannonball. As soon as I got up, my aide-de-camp, he did fall. Now on a bed of sickness lie, I am resigned to die. You generals all and champions bold, stand true as well as I. Stand to your men, take them on board, and fight with courage bold. I've led my men through smoke and fire, but now to death must yield. Mr. Ray sang with no steady beat. To capture this, Granger invented free time. In the opening brass fanfare, watch our conductor, there is no traditional meter. We are following the natural breath and declamation of an old man telling a war story.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for joining us tonight for this musical tribute of how a single voice can carry a piece of culture over 100 years. I also want to thank my beautiful fellow flowers, Trisha and Amy, for presenting these folk songs with me. The last song in our posy is titled The Lost Lady Found. This is a fun and energetic dance song that was originally sung in a kitchen to our singer, Mrs. Hill, by an old cook while she danced. 'Twas down in yon valley a fair maid did dwell. She lived with her uncle, they all knew full well. 'Twas down in yon valley where violets grow gay. 3 gypsies betrayed her and stole her away. Long time she'd been missing and could not be found. Her uncle, he searched the country around, till he came to the trustee between hope and fear. The trustee made answer, she had not been here. The trustee spoke over with courage so bold, I fear she's been lost for sake of her gold. So we'll have life for a life, sir, the trustee did say. We'll send you to prison, and there you shall stay. There was a young squire that loved her so. Oft times to the schoolhouse together they did go. I'm afraid she's been murdered, so great is my fear. If I had wings like a dove, I would fly to my dear. He traveled through England, through France, and through Spain, till he ventured his life on the watery main. And he came to a house where he lodged for the night, and in that same house was his own heart's delight. When she saw him, she knew him and fled into his arms. She told him her grief while she gazed on her charms. How come you to Dublin, my dearest, I pray? 3 gypsies betrayed me and stole me away. Your uncle's in England, in prison does lie, and for your sweet sake is condemned for to die. Carry me to old England, my dearest, she cried. 1,000 I'll give thee, and I will be your bride. When they came to old England, her uncle to see, the cart, it was under a high gallows tree. Oh, pardon, oh, pardon, oh, pardon, I crave. I'm alive, your dear life to save. Then from the high gallows they led him away. The bells they did ring and the music did play. Every house in the valley with mirth did resound. As soon as they heard, the lost lady was found. This piece is a really energetic waltz where the energy just builds and builds. The melody will begin with the woodwinds and repeat. You will hear it bounce through the band as different instruments pick up the melody and join the dance. Notice how the texture will thicken towards the end. It isn't just loud, it's dense. Listen for the final triumphant celebration of the lost lady found by the full ensemble. It captures the feeling of an entire village dancing in the streets, feet stomping in unison.
So I expect there to be feet stomping when we get to the end. That's your part.